We had big injuries to Mookie Betts and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Monday, June 17th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. And first up, Mookie Betts suffered a fracture on a bone in his left wrist, does not need surgery, but will be out, quote, for some time, according to his manager, Dave Roberts. And we know Mookie Betts, incredibly valuable for fantasy, top 5 pick in most drafts, has triple eligibility, outfield, shortstop, second base. According to your sleeper hitters list, Scott, outfielders that we could look at as replacements for this week: Andy Pages, Ian Happ, Alec Burleson, Jacob Young, and Charlie Blackmon.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play it week to week, those are going to be your best choices for this week. Dodgers have very favorable matchups. Pages has been heating up. I mean, you could see the rationale for all these players if you go look at my sleeper hitters article for week 13. And you may be able to play it week to week, because I don't think it's going to be an eternity that Betts is out. He doesn't need surgery. I'm thinking 4 or 6 weeks. Maybe he's back right after the All-Star break, which is, only a month from now. That seems realistic. So maybe this doesn't have to be a total tragedy for fantasy. But I do think it's also worth pointing out that you're trying to replace Mookie Betts level production, and the odds of any waiver wire pickup doing that is pretty low. I think you should at least consider exploring a trade, especially in shallower leagues, because you could get some players for some players who could come closer to replicating Mookie Betts' production for a month at a time. You could get that. You could potentially get that for cheap in a trade. And I think one great example, he just returned from the IL this weekend, is Nolan Jones. Nolan Jones, of course, was having a really hard time before he went on the IL, but we never lost faith in him. And since coming back now in 3 games, he's gone 4 for 8 with a stolen base, 5 walks to just 2 strikeouts. So already we're seeing we're seeing him look a lot more like the Nolan Jones we said. It's just a 3-game sample, I get it, but like the tools are still there for him to blow up and produce crazy numbers for a long stretch, and you can get him for dirt cheap because the season-long numbers are so bad, and it's not like he's hit a bunch of home runs since returning. So I think that's one option to explore if you don't just want to rely on the waiver wire.
And if you were using Mookie Betts as a middle infielder, I think some options you could look at: Nick Gonzalez, 71% roster; Joey Ortiz, 65%; Mason Wynn is 60%; and Luis Garcia of the Nationals. I know that they have 3 games in Coors Field this upcoming week, so those are some middle infield options for Mookie Betts.
And in the same vein as Nolan Jones, if you want to buy low option instead, I got a great one at shortstop at least. Dansby Swanson. I've seen him dropped in a couple of shallower leagues, obviously not performing well this season, but a lengthy track record and certainly a history of having multi-week stretches where he produces a lot like Betts with some power and speed. So, you buy low and you hope to get lucky that things click, is with the weather warming up now during that time that Betts is out.
Let's slide over to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who left Saturday's start with right triceps tightness, and he was then placed in the IL on Sunday. We later found out that it's a strained rotator cuff, and it's not season-ending, but it will take some time to heal. Another big loss, was ranked as a top 10 starting pitcher by both you and I, Scott. If we're talking about replacements, I think in some shallower leagues, some names you could look at: Matt Waldron, Hunter Brown, who continues to pitch well, Kyle Gibson, and Miles Michaelis. All 4 of those had great starts this weekend. How would you rank that group of potential replacements? Waldron, Brown, Gibson, and Michaelis.
Well, it's very close between Waldron and Hunter Brown. Waldron, we've been on him for longer. This is the knuckleballer, which adds an element of unpredictability there from start to start. But his last 7 starts now, Waldron has a 191 ERA, a .87 whip, 8.7 K per 9. But Hunter Brown might have more upside, and he's suddenly looking very strong himself after his 7 shutout innings against the Tigers this weekend. He now has, in his last 4 starts, a 144 ERA, 0.84 whip, 11.5 K per 9. So a shorter stretch there, but even better numbers than Waldron. And there is an arsenal change Hunter Brown's made that coincides with this. He's really started to fade his four-seamer. It was down to 17% in this most recent start. For the year, it's still his most thrown pitch, closer to 40%, but it's not a very effective pitch for him, and he has a variety of other pitches that he's mixing in more. And you see the success Hunter Brown has had with it. He has the much more favorable matchup this upcoming week going against the White Sox, while Waldron is going against the Phillies. So I think those are 1 and 1A for me, Brown over Waldron. Kyle Gibson, he's been around a long time. We kind of know who he is. He's pitching well this year. And is good at eating innings and that sort of thing. Matchup coming up against the Marlins, I think, is favorable enough that he's a clear number 3 here. Miles Mikolas would be a distant 4th. I might take a flyer on DJ Hertz, who had a 13 strikeout effort over the weekend. Kind of an unconventional pitcher, walked a lot of guys in the minors, doesn't throw very hard, but I think that presents a little more upside, particularly in those shallow leagues where you can afford to gamble a little more. I like DJ Hertz more than Miles Mikolas.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.